Hello, everyone. My name is Levi Whitley. I am the County Executive Director here at the Farm Service Agency. And okay, here we go. Okay, so our main goal here at the Farm Service Agency is to provide assistance for natural weather disasters for farmers and ranchers. So I just wanted to get with you guys today and talk a little bit about some of the main programs we offer, and hopefully some of you will be eligible for them. So the first program I wanted to talk about is the Non-Insured Crop Disaster Assistance Program. So this program is very similar to an insurance, but as in the title, it is not an insurance. How it works is it provides financial assistance for non-insurable crop losses due to a natural disaster after a 50% loss. So for example, the main commodity that we get applicants for in San Juan County is native grass. And say there's a drought, and for that year, if the grazing losses are calculated to be above 50%, then the NAP program will pay. If they're below 50%, then it will not. So to be eligible, you must be enrolled in the program before the growing season starts. The deadline is December 1st every year. So December 1st this coming year is the deadline for the 2024 sign up. There is no fee for socially disadvantaged, limited resource, or beginning farmer and ranchers. For native grass and rangeland, this program only covers grass loss, not any livestock loss. So the next program I wanted to talk about is the Livestock Forage Disaster Program, the LFP program. So this program is pretty popular the last few years because it is a disaster program. It kicks in when the conditions of disasters met. So for it's drought for this year, as it has been for the last 3 or 4. So this program provides compensation for livestock feed losses. How a producer is eligible is the county the livestock graze on must be in a D2 drought status for 8 consecutive weeks, according to the US Drought Monitor. If it kicks into D3 or higher, it automatically kicks in. So anybody who is eligible will be eligible for the program. So ranchers must have owned their livestock for 60 days prior to county becoming eligible. Ranchers must have a current permit, lease, or deed verifying their ranching operation. So this is a picture of the current drought monitor as of Thursday, July 20th, 2023. As you can see up here in San Juan County and McKinley as well, most of the counties are in at least abnormally dry or D0. So that doesn't necessarily mean that the program will kick in if the county is in abnormally dry. We see some moderately dry as well. And we also see some severe drought, this little orange piece right here. And I believe the program kicked in February 25th of this year. As of that date, the county did have some D2 drought for 8 consecutive weeks. So therefore, the program kicked in. So what applicants need to apply is they need a deed, lease, permit, and a map of their grazing area, their livestock numbers and type. So you can use tax records, personal ledgers, tally counts, just records. They need to have an acreage report filed by deadlines. So an acreage report for native grass, the deadline was July 15th. You can still apply, but there will be a late fee that applies to it. And you must have these eligibility forms filled out. It'll be the CCC 902, which is a farm operating plan, the AD 1026, which is a wetland conservation certification, a CCC 941, which is an average gross income form, and an AD 2047 is a new customer data worksheet. So you can find these applications at any county office. You can come in and pick them up. If you can't make it into town, you can call us and we can mail them to you as well. So the next program will be the Emergency Livestock Assistance Program, or the ELAP program. So this program provides compensation due to natural disaster. The main one we get is the water hauling program. And I know it's pretty big, especially on the Navajo Nation. So how a producer is eligible is the county where the livestock are located must be in a D2 drought status for 8 weeks consecutively. According to the US Drought Monitor, ranchers must have owned livestock 60 days prior to county becoming eligible. They must provide county office with water bills, hired labor receipts, and/or equipment rental receipts. They must provide county office with producer management practices. Some examples of documentation that we will accept is calendars, pocket notebooks, electronic ledgers. So pretty much we just need to know how many gallons of water you hauled on which date. The compensation will not exceed more than 150 days of water hauling. It is limited to rangeland only. Cropland is ineligible. So there must be a water source available on the rangeland pasture. Some examples are natural springs, earth, dirt tanks, ponds, etc. Normal water source must have gone dry due to qualifying drought. This is where we can get a little confused with our producers who are wanting to apply for this program. So to be eligible, you have to have a water source that went dry due to the current qualifying drought. If you haul water every year, say your water source goes dry every year, no matter the conditions, then they call that a normal management practice and you aren't eligible. So some wells that went dry during qualifying droughts, they may be eligible. But it does bring a lot of confusion in just because there is a lot of producers that do haul water. But like I said, you have to be hauling water because of a natural water source that went dry due to the qualifying drought. It cannot be a normal management practice. Is there any questions up to this point? I know I kind of went through a few programs pretty quick, but.
So I have a question. As far as the disaster program, you mentioned about record.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Cut some. But as far as records, how far back should you guys want to, like, a year, say they're starting out, like their operation, like a whole year, at least a year of records, or what's the minimum requirement as far as records you guys want the producers to have?
So for the LFP program, we just need your current count of your livestock head. So say you have to own the livestock for longer than 60 days, but on the day you apply for the program, that's the day we'll need to know how many animals you have. As for the ELAP program, specifically the water hauling, so when you know you are going to haul water, you need to contact the county office. You can either come in and fill out a notice of loss or even call on the phone, and we can record notice of losses over the phone. So what that does is it tells us that you are going to start the water hauling program. You are hauling water. And that way we can start your records on that date. Then from that date, you'll have 150 days to be eligible for the water hauling. We pay per gallon, so it won't be mileage or anything. That's why we need a calendar date of how many gallons you hauled on what dates. Then once we have that, when the 150 days is up, you'll sign another form with us, which is just completing the application. We will take it to our county committee. They will look over it and make sure there isn't any questionable data, and make sure the water hauled to all the eligible livestock is reasonable, and then they will approve it from there. Does that help answer those questions?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
No problem.
Cut you off. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No worries. Okay. And so on
One more
to
question,
oh yeah,
Levi.
go ahead.
So as far as acreage report, who furnishes that report, or where do producers go to get one?
So they can come to the county office. We can mail them one, or they can come in. Usually it's easier if they come in, because then if there's any changes to their land, or if they have maps and permits or deeds, then we can tie that all onto the acreage report and we can get that filled out for them. All they really need to do is upon approval of what we recorded for them, they just need their name and address and to sign and date.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And so another big program we have here is the LDP program. This is the wool and mohair program. So producer eligibility requirements, producers have, or they have to have beneficial interest in the eligible commodity for which a LDP is requested. They must have shares in the risk of producing the applicable commodity. They must have both control of the commodity and title to the commodity. They must own the sheep that produce the wool for at least 30 days before shearing. So some documents for eligibility include, it's similar to the other programs. The only thing about it is you do not have to have a permit or any deeded land or anything. This program doesn't take into account the land, just the wool. So you still have to have a 902 farm operating plan, still have to have a average adjusted gross income form, a highly erodible conservation wetland certification. And for this program, one of the most important things to it is you have to file a CCC 633EZ page 1 before you sell your wool. It's just an agreement form that is telling us you agree to the terms of the program. If you sell your wool prior to filling out a page 1 of this form, then you will lose beneficial interest and you won't be eligible for the program. So one of the things we do, or one of the things about the program, is you can fill out a page 1 immediately once you start growing your commodity. So after you shear your wool and sell it, technically their wool is growing back, and that does count as growing the commodity. So what I do with a lot of my producers is once they finalize their application for this year, here with the wool application, I'll have them sign a page 1 for next year. And as long as that commodity is growing, they will be eligible. So after the wool is sold, you'll take the receipt to the FSA Service Center where you filed the page 1 of the CCC 633EZ. The Service Center will look for the page 1 and have you sign the page 4 for payment request. So the page 4 is just the finalizing the application. It's what we have you fill out once receiving the receipt. It's for payment. So if you fill out a page 1 and bring your receipt in, you're not technically applying for it. You got the first part down, but once you sign the page 4, then your application is finalized and you have applied. All other eligibility forms can be filed at the Service Center where you take your receipt, and a page 1 can be filed for next year. So I believe that's the main programs I have to offer for today. Is there any questions on any of them that we didn't answer already?
Thanks, Levi. If any of you guys that are on here, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself, or you can insert your questions in the chat box.
This is Ernest Diswood. I do have a question about acreage reports.
Okay,
Most of the areas on the reservation trust areas are open grazing. But
okay.
then where my wife has a range management unit, is that based on the actual acreage or what
So
the permit says?
for permits such as Navajo Nation, BIA, BLM, and state, we go off of animal units, AUMs. So the acreage isn't the most important thing, but so what we do is we ask for your permit. It'll have the animal units there, and if you have a Navajo Nation permit, it's normally in sheep units. So we have to convert that to just regular animal units, like cow units, and then we'll turn that into AUMs, and that's what we use to record the acreage. So I know a lot of Navajo Nation producers don't, it's just open range and they don't have anything fenced off or maps. So the Navajo Nation producers are on their own farm, and we identify them because they have individual tracts and fields. Does that answer your question?
Not really, because the range management unit has a specific acreage size to it.
Okay,
And then you're getting into an area where the Navajo Nation has now opened up and is looking at doing agricultural leases for rangeland. And that'll have a specific acreage assigned to it too.
okay.
So I'm wondering and curious how FSA is going to look at those areas, because I think if you look at the conversion from or to AUMs, and that's how they pay people on the reservation, you know, ours will probably average out, let's say 1,000 acres,
Mhm.
when in reality, the RMU is actually a little over 2,300 acres. So I'm just curious how FSA is going to address that issue with range management units. And also, I know that a lot, or the Eastern Agency, they do theirs based on an area that's assigned to the individual. So it's acreages in Eastern Agency too, even though they do have permits that have numbers with them.
Okay. So what I,
And I think the other thing that we're looking at is if the trust land goes to what you would call carrying capacity base um, assignment of animal units, you know, how is that going to be addressed? Will that change on a yearly basis at FSA, or is that going to be something that is just going to remain constant despite fluctuating carrying capacity numbers?
so I imagine what will happen is we will have to go kind of tackle it almost as if it is private land, even though it isn't, since there aren't animal units to be used. So what we'll do is we'll ask for a map and the area where the rangeland is located. Then we will, like you said, go off of the carrying capacity. So for the FSA, we use a map that has different carrying capacities in different areas. So we'll go off that to calculate the correct AU animal units from that area. But I haven't had one of those situations yet, so I'm interested to see exactly how that will play out.
Okay, thanks Ernest for that question, and thanks Levi. Are there anyone else that have any questions so far? If not, then we can move forward.
Okay.
Okay, well, I guess that concludes all the questions that we have for this evening. But Levi, thank you so much for discussing the programs that a lot of folks here in San Juan County has been applying for and how to apply for it. And as more in depth in what they need to submit as far as documentations to your office and so forth. So really appreciate you um, squeezing some of your time to provide us this presentation. So you're more than welcome to stick around. We're just going to go ahead and conclude our presentation now, and we're just going to be discussing some upcoming events. But you can either go ahead and log off, or you can stick around.
Okay, thank you. And like I said, if you guys think of any more questions, feel free to contact the office. Mikkel, I can give Mikkel some business cards to hand out, and feel free to call anytime. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Levi. Appreciate it. Okay, well, I hope a lot of that information helped you guys out. For those of you that are on here, just to let you guys know that we have our second livestock first aid training that's coming up on August 4th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So this will be presented by Dr. John Wenzel from NMSU Extension Veterinarian. So he will be joining us once again in providing this great presentation. So he's very thorough. He likes to do a lot of hands-on demonstrations, and so he really likes to communicate with a lot of folks out here. So he'll be providing the livestock first aid training at Shiprock Chapter House. So if you guys are interested, please scan this QR code and it will lead you directly to our registration page. So register ahead of time. Lunch will be provided, and just to let you guys know that for those of you that will be attending from all the way from 9 to 4, participants will receive a livestock first aid kit bag for attending the full day's training. And it's going to be limited to 1 bag per family as well. So the first aid kit are sponsored by the Navajo Transitional Energy Company. In other words, you guys perhaps know them by NTEC. So they're the one that will be sponsoring our first aid kits. So just to let you guys know, our livestock training is happening on August 4th at Shiprock Chapter House from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And this goes for all livestock owners. If you're not a livestock owner, that's fine if you want to attend just to see how to mend injured cuts and burns on horses, cattle, and sheep, and you don't have any livestock, but you're planning on getting livestock later down the year. This will be a great demonstration for you guys. So it will be hands-on. So we'll have all 3 species there for you to do a hands-on demonstration as far as vaccines. So just to let you guys know, that's happening on August 4th. Then what we have as far as virtual presentations, we will have our drip irrigation for gardening, and our presenters' information is on their flyer as well. This will be on August 9th from 5:30 all the way to 6:30 p.m. And I am not going to attempt to say his last name, but his name is Dr. Israel. He's coming from the NMSU. Sorry about that. He's a vegetable program manager from New Mexico State University. So all of this information as far as registering for the webinar can be found on our website at nsa.nmsu.edu. And if you have any questions as far as getting registered for our in-person workshop, here's my contact information at kelly96@nmsu.edu. We also have Miss Jessie Jims, who's our program coordinator's email information is there as well. But setting aside the upcoming events, I just want to let you guys know, most of you that are on here, you perhaps already are familiar with our conservation planning program. So if you are a grazing permittee or a farmer that would need some assistance as far as conservation plans, we do this as free of charge. So we do help assist in conservation plans in Eastern and Northern Navajo Agency. So if you are interested in working one-on-one with us and our technicians, or you're looking for some workshops that you want it for it to be held at a local chapter house, put in a request. So if you could email us at nsaproject@nmsu.edu, and we'll go ahead and get that process started for you. Going forward now, as far as I mentioned with our upcoming events and how to go forward in registering for the webinar or the in-person, head over to nsa.nmsu.edu. So this is basically our main format. Once you have visit our website, this will basically pop up. Here, it will just give you an overview of who we are as a project. And if you click Meet the Team tab, it will show ourselves in our profiles and as well as our technicians. And here is our NAPS program that was there previously before this one. Our conservation planning program, we have templates, we have our checklists all on there, and that information will be on that tab. And our upcoming events, like I mentioned, it will look like this screenshot of the bull selection webinar. So this is just an example. But this is how it would look once you have clicked upcoming events. It'll give you the webinar name, the time frame, if it's online or if it's in person, who is it presented by, and right here where it's highlighted in red will say register here. So if you click that button, it'll redirect you to another tab. You register, then it will pop up to the email that you have inserted in that registration page. Then from there, we have webinars and workshops. This has all of our recorded webinars from previous months. And if you want to look at their publications that they shared, it will be on there. Some folks even had their information as far as including their publications and their PowerPoint slides. And our newsletters, if you guys are interested in subscribing to our newsletters, let us know. And there's also a sign up sheet on there on the newsletters tab. And of course, the USDA program directories updated. But other than that, thank you all for joining us. And I hope you guys all have a good rest of your evening. We're on Facebook. We have a YouTube channel. All of our recorded webinars are shared to our YouTube channel. And we'll be coming out with our monthly newsletter next month in August. So do expect our newsletter this upcoming month. It will have all the great information from July and August. So if you need to get a hold of us by any chance, here's our contact information. Jesse's on there, and so is myself. And if you guys need to know us a little bit further, get to know us and our conservation planning program, upcoming events, and all sorts of things, there is our website. So all the information can be found on there. But other than that, thank you all for joining us this evening, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Good evening, those of you that are on here participating with us this evening for the Farm Service Agency webinar. I just want to say thank you all for joining us this evening. This will be our last part to our USDA resource series. And tonight's presentation will be presented by Levi Whitling. He's a San Juan County Director. So I'll have him introduce himself later after our presentation, our introductions. And just to let you guys know, most of you that are on here, you get pretty much the gist of how things roll from the beginning. Since I do see a lot of familiar names on the participation sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and roll through with who we are. So you basically perhaps know who we are by heart. But Navajo Sustainable Agriculture Project, in short, we call it the NSA project. So it's pretty lengthy, but we shorten it to the NSA program project. So just to let you guys know, we're part of the New Mexico Cooperative Extension Service Initiative. We deliver a lot of programs and educational resources in collaboration with Dene College Land Grant Office that you see a lot of their logos on our workshops, flyers, sign-in sheets, and so forth. We partner a lot with their program and team members to deliver educational trainings, and we'll go ahead and go more in depth in that in the next slide. And not to mention community outreach and patient empowerment. Most of you may be familiar with Carol Palmer. She's the food COPE specialist from the organization COPE. So she presents a lot of information on the garden side of things. So she's really great. And lastly, we're funded by the USDA Outreach and Assistance for Socially Disadvantaged Farmers and Ranchers and Veteran Farmers and Ranchers Program. So if my mouse can work, hopefully you guys can see the other slide. But just to go over our goals. So this is basically the NSA project wants to improve the operations, profitability, and sustainability to our farmers and ranchers and veteran farmers and ranchers, and use of our local programs, or not local programs, but our weekly presentations that we provide that alternates from livestock to crops and going on to gardening. So like I mentioned from the previous slide, with our collaborations with two of our main project partners, Dene College is one of our biggest project partners of all, who help us in coordinating a lot of these workshops that you guys always want some assistance on, from conservation planning programs to herd health management, to livestock first aid training, and soil prepping, and food prepping as well. And that goes along with COPE as well, from a lot of gardening aspects of things and what to look for in planting, and basically when to plant and how to plant, and water storage. Webinar presentations are all part of gardening. So we thank a lot of their services and their resources in helping us make a lot of these workshops possible. And of course, increasing our producers' knowledge in USDA programs. Most of you know NRCS, FSA, Rural Development, RMA, and so forth. And these are all USDA programs and services, and those of other resource providers. So like, such as for tonight, we'll be discussing a lot of the FSA local programs that Levi will further discuss more in depth. And lastly, increase the local production and consumption of fresh fruits and vegetables and healthy foods by Navajo families and individuals through our gardening programs.